It's been 6 years since Tata launched the Nexon back in 2017, and since then they've always managed to keep it in the news with constant updates, some feature additions, some new trim levels, new paint shades. But people said, you know what, just give us one car that has it all, the most radical design, the most feature-packed cabin, and a good amount of powertrain options. Well, finally, Tata Motors has listened, because this is the 2023 Nexon. Completely different in look, you have a completely different interior, and you have some significant mechanical changes as well.
Yeah, shine, rain, there's nothing that can stop me. I know one thing. Please approach with caution, I do not play. And I promise, don't want no problems. Look at what you started.
This might not be a generational change for the Nexon, since the platform and powertrains have been carried over, but it looks so much more than a facelift. At the front, you can see a lot of inspiration from the curve concept shown at the Auto Expo. The face is heavily updated and it looks nothing like the Nexons of the past. The sleek LED DRLs get sequential turn indicators, the headlamps are now LEDs and have been moved onto the bumper. The grille is a mix of mesh and slat patterns, and there are also air curtains on the side for better aero. Over to the side, the sharp lines continue and the alloys also get a new look. That said, they are still 16 inches and get the same tire size as before. The classic Nexon look with the rising belt line and the sloping roofline along with the floating roof at the rear continues. There has been no change to the dimensions, so the length, wheelbase and the 208mm ground clearance remain unchanged. At the rear, the connected LED tail lamps are sharp to look at and the rear wiper is tucked away under the spoiler for a clean look. This fearless purple paint shade is quite striking too, but let us know in the comments what you think of this supercar-like paint.
Now, if you think the exterior is not that great, take a look at this. The interior has been completely revamped for the new Nexon, and that was one gripe people had with the older one, that it just felt too dated and old. Not anymore. Let's start from right to left. The steering is the big one, because it is nice and large, quite chunky and good to grip as well, and you have this two-spoke design. Now, I'm not sure how many will appreciate this sort of glossy plate up here, because it is extremely easy to smudge and get scratches on. In fact, it already has a lot of marks on it.
The logo on the steering is also backlit, which dims down as you turn on the lights, so at night it won't be a distraction.
Then you have the controls. You have the controls for the cruise control, the media settings, and everything is where you'd expect it to be, very neatly organized. Inside is an instrument cluster, a 10.2-inch completely digital unit, and it is customizable as well. You can get your maps on there, you can change the dials, and you can have a lot of information on offer. Crisp, very detailed, and nice to look at.
For a full view of the maps in the instrument cluster, if you are an Apple user, you will have to use Apple Maps via CarPlay, and Google Maps will only work with Android Auto connected.
The next thing is the touchscreen. Again, a 10.25-inch unit and very responsive and slick. You get wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto as well, and you have all the settings you need in here. Low down is another sadly glossy panel, which, like I said, is prone to smudges, dust and scratches. Now, it's going to be very difficult to maintain, so you better have a microfiber cloth in here. But you have your climate control settings in here, and you also have the option to choose the 360-degree camera and open the boot from down here as well. Lower down, you have a small cubby hole that gets a Type-C port and a Type-A USB port, along with a charging socket. There's also a wireless charging pad here. A sunroof is on offer as well, and like the older Nexon, you get a drive mode selector as well.
The other highlight on the Nexon is the audio quality with the 8-speaker JBL speakers that also get a subwoofer. It gets multiple modes to select depending on the audio, and overall is a superb system if you love your music. Add to that the incredibly crisp 360-degree camera with blind view monitor along with dedicated SOS switch for emergency, and it's evident that this truly is a 2023 interior.
So overall, it is an interior that will definitely appeal to a lot of the buyers. However, what will split opinion is this upholstery, because the purple on the outside doesn't seem that brash and bold, but when you get inside, this lavender mixed with the black, and then you have these grey accents as well, it's not for everyone, and that I think will split opinion. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think of this purple and black interior upholstery. The other thing are the seats, which have been redesigned, so they are a bit more comfortable, a lot more supportive. However, cushioning is not as soft as the earlier Nexon. It has been firmed up slightly, but that also means a good amount of support.
What's nice is that the seats get height adjust for driver and passenger, and ventilation, which works very effectively.
And lastly, you have the key. That is exactly the same as the older car, so no big changer.
There are some bits from the older Nexon like the ORVM adjust switches and the power window switch gear, but why fix something that isn't broken? Safety has always been a priority for the Nexon, and with this one it continues. You have 6 airbags, ABS with EBD, ESP, a tire pressure monitor, 3-point seat belts for the rear passengers, and blind view monitor as well. But it does miss out on ADAS, which the Hyundai Venue now gets.
Now, since there has been no dimensional change to this updated Nexon, space in the back seat is the same as before, which means if you're over 6 feet, you're going to have barely enough room for your knees. Footroom is decent, but again, headroom is going to be a problem for taller adults. The seat has also been redesigned like the front slightly, so you have a bit better support. Under-thigh support is not bad either. However, I wish Tata included a recline, at least a one-step recline. That would have made things a lot more comfortable.
That said, for average size adults, the space is more than enough, and the rear seat is a lot better compared to rivals such as the Hyundai Venue and the Kia Sonet.
Down here you get your AC vents, and you also get a Type-C port and a USB-A. You also have a center armrest. There are 3-point seat belts for all 3 passengers back here, and they have pressure sensors as well, which means if you don't wear it, the car will start chiming.
Boot space is still a strong 382 liters, which can be upped by folding down the rear seats.
Powering this updated Nexon are 2 engine options, the same as before, a 1.2 litre turbo petrol engine making 120 horsepower and a 1.5 litre diesel with 115 horsepower. Now the gearboxes are the same as well, 6-speed manual and 6-speed AMTs. However, what is different though is on the petrol version, you now have a 7-speed DCT. Now since the engine is the same, let's get to the big change, the DCT gearbox. Now the first thing right off the bat is the smoothness during shifts. You never really feel the cogs swapping, and it just is really nice as long as you are moderate with the throttle. If you expect DSG levels of performance, something like what VW had, then this car is not going to do that. The response is more torque converter like and a lot more linear. Even after you change the mode, the engine response is better. However, the shift speeds are still the same. Kickdown is not that great either. It takes a bit of that hesitance before it gets going. But once it gets going, it is quite nice. And like I said, it is smooth and very, very comfortable. Now for a bit better control of the gearbox, you also have paddle shifters on offer, and like I said, they are nice to the touch. However, the shift speed again is a bit of an issue because they are just not as responsive, and you do miss that driver engagement. There is a fair bit of delay every time you tug on these, and they just aren't as foolproof as you would like them to be. The best way then to work this DCT is to have a moderate foot on the throttle and not expect hyper responses. If you rush this, it's not going to work in your favor.
Downshift too enthusiastically and the car will refuse to shift down with a warning on the instrument screen. It's a fail-safe that protects the transmission from abuse. The transmission also has an AI software that learns and adapts to your driving style for better performance. But on the whole, it still isn't quick or as responsive as VW's DSGs.
Which, to be honest, is a bit of a shame because the engine is quite nice, especially once it crosses 2,500 RPM. You get a nice surge, the mid-range is nice and punchy, and at the top, you have this nice exhaust snarl as well. It's not really a coarse sound, you don't feel like it's a 3-cylinder struggling. In fact, the exhaust note is rather nice.
Tata also claimed to have retuned the suspension, but it is broadly the same as before in character.
So at low speeds, the bumps come through the cabin. Sharp bumps at slow speeds are felt. However, as you gain speed, it all flattens out very nicely.
It is confident and flat while cruising at triple digit speeds and takes on undulations very well.
Where the Nexon really shines through is on a completely battered section of road. It has that toughness that you expect, and it definitely feels a lot like an SUV.
In corners, it is confident to maneuver, but you won't find a lot for the enthusiasts. It is aimed at convenience with that light steering, and that is what it does best.
Now the Nexon is only one of 3 cars in the segment to still carry forward a diesel.
A 1.5 litre turbo diesel, but one that now gets 115 horsepower as opposed to the 110 horsepower on the earlier car.
And to be honest, refinement is not its strong suit, because especially at low speeds, you do hear a lot of that diesel drone, and if you step on the accelerator, response is very good, that torque comes in immediately, but refinement and that diesel noise is something you just can't avoid. So like the petrol version, this too gets a 6-speed manual, but no option of a DCT here. You have the AMT as the only automatic on option.
However, on the drive, we only had the 6-speed manual available.
Now the other thing is the 6-speed manual gearbox. Now it's very slick to shift, nice and easy. The clutch is also very light, but the bite point is quite far up. That means a good workout for your left leg. You have to really dig in, and whenever you have to lift off, it is quite a long travel. So that is going to be quite cumbersome, especially in city traffic.
That said, the engine feels quite adequate, especially when the road opens up.
Now a big advantage of the diesel is its strong cruising ability. Once it's in 6th gear and you are just ambling around 100, 110, it is absolutely at home. However, what you just can't fail to appreciate is that torque and how nicely spread it is, because I am under 2000 RPM now, and if I just press on the accelerator in 3rd, the response is immediate and it is quite strong. Yes, it does get loud, especially around 3,500 RPMs, but you don't really miss out on that strong overtaking ability. Now this obviously in city mode, which is the balance of the two. If I switch to eco mode,
economy drive mode activated.
It's gonna tell you that every single time. Performance is obviously a bit dull, but to be honest, the gap is not that much, and you can't really tell because you still get a good surge as you step on the accelerator. So it doesn't really feel like an eco mode, like it's choking on the power.
Switch to sport mode though, and it becomes a lot more responsive.
But sadly, along with that, you can hear a lot of that gruff diesel drone as well. So on the whole, how much of an update is this? Well, to be honest, quite a significant one. Yes, it's not a generational change, it still sits on the same platform, it still gets the same engines and gearboxes as well, but the addition of a DCT has definitely widened its appeal. And then you have this massive change to the interior. That was one part where the Nexon severely lacked, and that Tata have fixed. The exterior also is a lot more radical to look at, and people will definitely like the modernism it brings.
Tata has also revamped the variant breakup of the Nexon, which now does away with the older terminology and gets new trim lines. Smart, pure, creative and fearless, that are further classified into Plus, S and Plus S. A wide array of options only means that there is a Nexon available for a wide range of budgets. Pricing will be out on the 14th of September, but we estimate it to be between 8 to 14 lakh rupees, making it competitive with the rivals. Put everything together, the Nexon delivers an overall package that offers more for the money. And looking at its track record, that's exactly what Indian car buyers seem to want. Suffice to say, if you liked the Nexon earlier, you'll really love this one.